Hello, everyone, and welcome into Fridays with Phil. I'm Phil Mayo, and I'd like to share with you 5 minutes of biblical insight to help you along the way. If you enjoy the content, please be sure to subscribe. The message to Philadelphia is an interesting one because it is the only message of the 7 that contains no corrective instructions for the church. In addition, the opening description of Jesus is not taken, as in the previous messages, from the earlier vision of Christ. And lastly, it contains the rather enigmatic expression, Synagogue of Satan. The opening description of Jesus appears to be drawn from Isaiah 22:22, which is a prophecy originally spoken about Eliakim, son of Hilkiah. Isaiah prophesies that Eliakim will assume the throne of David and will establish his authority over Jerusalem and Judah. John's use of this prophecy for Jesus gives it messianic overtones. The primary opponents in Philadelphia are those who belong to the Synagogue of Satan, a problem it shares with the Smyrnean church. Although a variety of explanations have been offered for this ominous expression, the likely historical interpretation is that there is conflict between the Jewish and Christian communities in both Smyrna and Philadelphia. However, upon saying this, there are some needed clarifications. First, to use the terms Jews and Christian for this time period is somewhat anachronistic. Christianity and Judaism were still closely associated in John's day. Christianity, as it is first called in the 2nd century letters of Ignatius, started out as a Jewish sect. The first disciples were Jews and believed that Jesus was the long-awaited Messiah. Second, Judaism was a protected religion under Roman law, and Jews enjoyed a measure of freedom to practice their faith. Early believers in Jesus also enjoyed this protection as long as they were seen as Jews. As time passed, the church became increasingly Gentile and ostracized by Jewish communities. As Christians became progressively identified as a separate group, persecution increased. Third, John is not being anti-Jewish or anti-Semitic. He is a Jew himself and understands God's people are no longer ethnically defined. John defines God's people, Jew or Gentile, as, quote, those who keep God's commands and hold fast their testimony about Jesus, end quote. In Smyrna and Philadelphia, there is evidence of persecution. How much and what type isn't clear. Jesus says that he sees the Smyrnean affliction and poverty, which could suggest economic deprivation. He also knows the slander of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. The word slander is the Greek word blasphemia, a word also used later to describe the beast. In addition, the devil is about to throw some into prison and they will suffer persecution. The Philadelphian church is also likely suffering persecution. Jesus says that he knows they have little strength, have not denied his name, and have endured patiently. All of this suggests an atmosphere of persecution. They too suffer opposition from those who call themselves Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Jewish communities existed in most of the Asian cities, and it is quite possible that they came into conflict with Jesus' followers. Some of them were themselves Jews. Most evidence of Jewish persecution of Jesus' followers comes from Christian sources, so we don't know how biased it is. However, it seems reasonable to assume that there was early conflict. The language of persecution, coupled with the reference to the synagogue of Satan, suggests that some in the Jewish communities might be denouncing believers to the local authorities. This may be behind John's use of blasphemia in the Smyrnean message. John doesn't condemn Jews for being Jews, but for aligning themselves with the local authorities, against the Jesus community. The political authorities are portrayed in Revelation as the earthly agents of Satan. Anyone who aligns themselves with them by association aligns themselves with Satan. If you would like to read more about how John portrays the church in Judaism in Revelation, check out my book, which is available on Amazon. Next week, we'll look at the last of the 7 messages, the lukewarm Laodiceans. Won't you join me? Thank you, and God bless you.